Hello and welcome to Biz Daily. I'm Jon Jordan. So the big news today is Rovio. So the creator of Angry Birds has announced a pretty substantial package of redundancies. So we're not exactly sure how many kind of staff it has at the moment, but it's saying it's preparing for 260 staff redundancies, which could be about 50% of its staff. So, pretty significant. So just to kind of go back a bit in time to see why and how Rovio has kind of come to this situation. Obviously, kind of Angry Birds is the bedrock of its kind of business, and obviously from 2009, 2010, 11. 12, even 13 really, Rovio was in a massive growth phase. So Angry Birds was just doing brilliantly the game side, and more importantly the merchandising side. So while the games have kind of been the I guess the kind of cultural bedrock of how Rovio has grown, it's really been kind of 2010, 2013 kind of merchandising. So we've seen it everywhere. Angry Birds kind of merchandising, pillowcases, t-shirts, food, playgrounds. Just an enormous amount of merchandising has been happening with Angry Birds, and that kind of drove a lot of financially a lot of Rovio's growth. So in 2013, merchandising was 47% of its turnover, and its turnover was, let me check the figures. Its turnover then was 156 million euros, so kind of getting on for $200 million. And basically what's happened is that from 2013 was the high point for Rovio's sales. 2014 saw a decline, not a massive decline overall, so sales were down 9% overall, but interestingly the games revenue was up 16%. So games for 2014 were 70% of turnover. Merchandising, even by that point, had shrunk to 30%. And what we're seeing now is basically the outcome of this kind of, because it is effectively just a hard restructuring of Rovio's business, which grew very big. At one point it was about 800 people, offices all over the world. That's kind of sustainable when you've got a massive merchandising operation that you can sustain. So when you're kind of Hello Kitty or something like that, you just know that that's $1 billion industry, and they know that year on year. For Angry Birds, because it was so new, there's a big explosion in the phenomenon really of Angry Birds as a kind of brand, particularly like a brand for children, and that kind of bubbled and now sustained down. So it's probably, I'm sure they're still generating tens of millions of dollars a year from Angry Birds merchandising, but it's just not that big part of the business it was. So obviously on the merchandising side, Rovio is going to have to lose a lot of people there. It's interesting that they've still got a big they've got an animated movie coming out next year, so they've kind of made it clear that the people who are making that movie clearly not going to be sacked. Quite what they do after the movie, because Rovio did buy an animation studio and produces a lot of its tunes, animation videos as well. So how important that is for the long-term future of the company, we don't really know. But clearly, the CEO has said, as part of this restructuring, that Rovio just did too much. There's too many operations they had. They're kind of refocusing back. So particularly with games, which is kind of work where we like to see it, I suppose. Games are a good way of making money, and for good companies you shouldn't need that many staff. Certainly game developers do not have 800 staff, or very few do. And a Rovio of 200-300 people is probably much more sustainable, much more profitable. So obviously very hard for the people who are going to lose their jobs. I guess the one kind of small comfort is in Finland, where most of them probably will be. They get very good severance packages, and the Finnish games industry is very strong at the moment. Lots of people are hiring, so hopefully a number of those people will be able to be picked up by local developers. And already there's companies like Next Games and Seriously are basically kind of people who used to work at Rovio and spun out over the last couple of years. So there's a good kind of bedrock of start-ups with experienced people from Rovio. So hopefully that will, in the long run, in a year's time, we'll look back and go, this was the right move for Rovio. It wasn't very nice at the time, but it made them a stronger company. Obviously, companies can't keep going on if they're not well run, not being as profitable as they could be. or eventually they become loss-making, go bust, and then everyone loses their jobs. So in the long run, it's probably a good move. And certainly we've seen with Angry Birds 2, the game's come out, it's done probably about, I think they announced 30 million downloads, probably obviously a lot more now. And we've I think public perception of Rovio is lagging a little bit. I'm kind of quite bullish on that. I think the Angry Birds games, they've kind of understood free-to-play now. It's still a very strong brand globally. So I think we'll have to wait obviously until the 2015 financials come out, which will be a while yet. But I think we'll see a rebound of Rovio, and they've kind of hired a lot of smart people in the last kind of year, 6 months in particular. So I think in the future there are good times ahead for Rovio. Just some pain to go through in the meantime. Okay, well hopefully we'll come back with some happy news tomorrow and come back then and see what's been going on in the world of mobile games. See you then.